Welcome everyone to today's webinar on eTapestry Data Health. My name is Allie, and I am an eTapestry consultant with Sidekick Solutions. We're an independent consulting company that makes eTapestry easier to use and more effective for organizations of all sizes. I'm here with my colleague, Jeff Hagewood, owner and founder of Sidekick Solutions. You want to say hi, Jeff?
Hi, everyone. Welcome and thanks for joining today. We're excited to share some of our expertise and experience with eTap and cover one of eTapestry's top challenges, which is keeping your data clean and healthy so you can run accurate reports and be effective with your fundraising strategies. Thanks, Allie.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So everyone, Jeff's going to stick around and make sure we address all your questions today. If you have questions during the webinar, feel free to throw them in the toolbar and he'll respond. Otherwise, we'll be wrapping up a few minutes early and taking your questions at the end of the presentation. So I'm connecting with you all today from Seattle, Washington, where I live and work remotely. I work remotely with organizations that are looking to improve how they use their eTapestry database. In today's webinar, we will discuss strategies and tools for resolving one of the most common challenges among eTapestry users, which is database health. Specifically, we will be covering the top signs that it is time to clean up your database, 3 issues you must address to resolve data health concerns, eTapestry tools you can use to streamline a cleanup, and actionable recommendations and steps for cleaning up and maintaining the ongoing health of your database. So are you struggling with data health? You may be inclined to say yes, especially since you're on this webinar, but how do you really know if data health is the problem and not something else, like a lack of knowledge or eTapestry training? What are the signs that it's time to clean up? So we're going to talk about those. The first sign is that you don't trust your data, meaning you compile data manually for reports, or you use alternate data sources for your reporting needs, like financial reports from your accountant, rather than from eTapestry. Another sign is that you're spending too much time cleaning up your reports. So if your data is messy, you are likely having to validate your financial reports, usually line by line. And you're also likely having to repeatedly correct your mailing lists for duplicates, missing addresses and salutations, and other formatting errors. A third sign is that you can't report on what you need to. So if your data was not entered consistently, you may not have the means to segment your data the way you need to. Again, forcing you to compile reports manually or to not generate eTapestry reports at all. Clean data is absolutely crucial to accurate reporting and communications. And we all know this, but most of us find ourselves investing in cleanup projects at the worst times, right when we need the data the most. Not being able to rely on eTapestry data and reports is not standard practice, and it's really not okay. Reporting is a primary benefit that you receive as part of your investment in eTapestry. And not being able to take advantage of eTapestry standard and custom reports due to your data health is a wasted opportunity. It's a wasted opportunity to track and improve your fundraising performance, and a wasted opportunity to confidently implement your strategies. So what I'm getting to here is that you're wasting money by not investing in improvements. If you are struggling with messy data, you really need to make a change. So where do you start? We're going to talk about that today. Well, there are 3 steps to cleaning up and restoring trust in your data. The first is to identify the root causes of your poor data health and resolve them as best as possible. Then step 2 is to clean up your historical data to establish a baseline level of data quality. And finally, step 3 is to implement recurring reviews so that you can ensure that any new data that you add to your database meets that same level of data quality and that it stays clean and accurate moving forward. So your first step is to isolate the root issues you're facing so you can focus your cleanup. You need to determine what elements of data health are the primary contributors to your eTapestry challenges. And there are 3 common reasons your data might be messy, and we're going to talk through those. These 3 reasons include automated data entry errors. So messy, inaccurate, or missing data is most often caused by automated data entry processes because they don't require manual human review. It's also one reason we love these. Errors can be introduced in an ongoing fashion this way, though, through online forms, integrations, or bulk management tools. They can also be created through one-time imports or mass updates that might be done incorrectly. So, for example, an online donation form could have incomplete or old settings that define how it adds account and transaction data to your database. So you want to ask yourself, are your donations, your online donations, being recorded with the correct fund, campaign, and approach values? And if you have a required user-defined field on your account or your transaction, say account type, does your online form populate it? So that's just one example of where those problems might be coming from. And if there is an ongoing problem, you need to address it. You want to review and update your online form settings because in your settings, you can define how data gets added. So you can populate a required field just by modifying the settings. You might want to invest in data management training or make adjustments to your integrations so that you can reduce the impact on your database. Another common reason for messy data is old or irrelevant data that is no longer useful to your organization. Having contacts in your database that are not viable it's not uncommon. Everybody has them. Some people are active when you put them in, and then a couple years go by and they're just no longer valuable to you. But if you find that your database has reached an unmanageable size or that you have too many irrelevant accounts ending up in your reports, you need to assess your data entry practices. Practices of importing cold prospect lists or adding contexts that are unrelated to fundraising. For example, these can expand your database to an unmanageable size with contexts that have little to no value to your database's primary function, which is helping you raise money. So you want to consider adjusting your criteria for what should be added to the database so that new data you enter stays actionable longer. Inconsistency or rapid organizational change is another common cause of poor data health. Inconsistent data entry over a number of years due to, say, staff transitions, rapid organizational change, and neglect can contribute significantly to an unhealthy database. So we all know there's usually no controlling organizational change. It's going to happen. But you can avoid the negative impact it has on your database by doing 3 things. First, you want to make contingency plans for what happens if your database administrator leaves. Second, you want to distribute eTapestry knowledge among your staff so you are less reliant on one staff member. And third, you want to document your data entry and management procedures. So by that I mean user guides and procedural documentation. Proactively addressing the root causes like these of your poor data health is going to reduce the number of new errors you add to the database and help you keep your data clean going forward. Which brings us to step 2 in addressing your data health, which is to isolate the problem data and clean it up. So we've tackled why this data is getting into the database incorrectly. How did you get here? And for the most part, you want to address how you got here. And that's step 1. Step 2 is cleaning up the data that's incorrect so that you can restore that base level of clean data. Plus, addressing the root causes is going to give you a better sense of what data is inaccurate. And so you'll be better prepared to clean it up because you'll know what you need to fix. Now, reviewing and updating existing data can be a big project. Depending on the amount and type of data that needs to be corrected, it can feel a little overwhelming. Luckily, it doesn't have to be a manual cleanup, as there are a lot of tools available to you in eTapestry that can streamline the process. So let's talk about those. The first among the best tools that you can use are actually eTapestry queries. These can be used to group together and isolate the data that needs your attention the most. I like to use queries to group together records that share the same mistake, because as you correct each record, it then falls out of your query results, allowing you to track your progress and focus your work. Plus then you'll know when your work's done. So for example, if we hop over to eTapestry, you can set up a query that, say, pulls in all of the accounts that are missing an account type, like I've done here. This means that this query pulls in every constituent account that has no value in account type. But in my database, account type is required. And so what I want to do is create this query that pulls in anybody that has nothing here, they have no value, so that I can go through and assign a value. Now, as I do this, when I preview this, I will see all of the accounts that have an account type missing. But as I go in one by one and add account type, they're going to fall out of my query results. So if I update Andy Aardvark, I'm going to get 59 accounts. So the great part about this is that once I'm done with my cleanup, I'll have 0 results. And so I'll know that my project is done. Next, I recommend using eTapestry's import tool. This tool allows you to modify or create data in bulk, saving significant time in a large cleanup project. This tool is best used to export eTapestry account data you need to modify, edit it in Excel, and then upload the changes in bulk. We call the process of exporting and re-importing data a mass edit. It's really useful. Another great bulk management tool is mass updates. These can be used to assign or remove data in bulk for all records grouped in a custom query. This tool is especially helpful for cleanup projects when, say, data needs to be moved from one field to another, because you can assign it to the new field and then remove it from the old field. So you might do this to adjust segmentation codes for accounts, reassign fund campaign approach values, or even add journal context for a batch of constituents, because mass updates can also be used to create journal context in bulk. So if you've never used the mass update tool, you can find it here under the Management tab, Management Mass Update. And it lists here all of the different ways that you can use this tool to either update existing items in bulk or create new items for a batch of accounts that you have grouped together in a query. Next, be sure to take advantage of the NCOA Address Finder tool. This can be used by US-based eTapestry customers to standardize all addresses in their system and identify invalid or incorrect, as well as new addresses for constituents. You'll also find this service under the Management tab in eTapestry, and it's incredibly useful. Finally, the duplicate report is your primary tool for identifying and cleaning up duplicate accounts, saving you money on mailings and cleaning up your account lists. You definitely want to take advantage of that. And again, if you've never used the duplicate report, this is something you'll find under reports. And instead of going to manage reports, you'll go to standard reports up here in the top left corner. And it's listed under your account report, so duplicate report. And you can run the duplicate report with any query of accounts. I like to run it with base all accounts or all constituents, but you can actually run it with any query of accounts, and it'll check for duplicates across the system for the accounts in your query. So when tackling a historical cleanup project, I recommend using all of these tools. They're all going to be useful for you. But there is a specific step-by-step process that's most efficient. So let's talk about what that is. First, you want to identify and clean up any inactive accounts. So you can use queries to segment accounts based on journal activity and available contact information, and flag or delete those you'd like to remove from your future reports. Second, run the duplicate report for all of your constituents and merge all duplicates identified. Third, you want to run the NCOA address finder tool if it's available to you, because this will update your address formatting and identify invalid and inaccurate addresses. Keep in mind that if you run this service, the service itself does not update any user-defined fields you may be using to create clean mailing lists. So I recommend using the queries that the service creates to identify and update accounts that need changes to their communication status fields. Fourth, you're going to mass edit your accounts with missing or inaccurate data. To streamline this process, you're going to segment all data that needs updating into a query and export it to Excel. In Excel, you'll modify the data, and then you'll upload the spreadsheet with your changes back into eTapestry using the import tool and matching on account number. You can use this process to standardize names and salutations, assign critical user-defined fields like account type, mailing status, and attributes. It can be used to organize constituents into groups and segments, clean up constituent-defined fields page, and even update account contact information that's out of date. So this is going to be your heavy lifting step where you do a lot of your cleanup. Once you have a baseline level of quality, your next and final step is to ensure that all new data added to your system meets the same level of quality. The best way to maintain data health is by staying proactive with regular reviews and updates to your data. Operationalize this by committing to monthly data quality reviews to double check and correct errors in data entry. Set up and complete your reviews in 3 steps. Step 1, you'll build custom queries and reports for each review you want to complete. We recommend starting with 2, all transactions created last month and all accounts created last month. Once you've got those built, your second step is to schedule the reports to run or just run them on a monthly basis. And step 3 is to review your reports on a recurring basis, so we recommend monthly, to identify and correct the data entry errors in the database. The first review we recommend you set up is transactions created last month. You'll need 2 things: a query, so a custom query that you build, and a custom report. These that I'm showing here are the query criteria we recommend, meaning you'll review all journal entries with a transaction-related journal entry type, like gift, pledge, payment, and a journal entry creation date of last month. You'll also need a report that includes full details of the transaction record. And you can set that up for yourself under Reports, Manage Reports. You'll build a new report. I called mine Transaction Detail Report. But this is where you can define all of the fields you want to review, all the data you want to review on your new transactions every month. So I recommend adding name, date, received amount, fund, campaign, and approach at a minimum. When you run this, you'll select the query, the custom query that you built of transactions created last month. And then every month you'll go through and review and look for errors. When you look for errors, you're looking for issues with fund, campaign, and approach codes. Marking these fields correctly is vital to reporting on and managing your fundraising strategy performance. So these are really the most important thing that you want to review. Secondly, you're looking for errors with received amounts. And this is because negative amounts could indicate failed processing, which requires your follow-up with donors. You also want to look for payment allocation errors. By that, I mean a gift that was added, but that's actually a payment that you need to allocate towards a pledge. It's really easy to accidentally create a gift when you intended to create a payment. So you just want to double check. Make sure all your gifts that are entered aren't actually pledge payments. You also want to look for errors with other key user-defined fields that you need for reporting. So if you have custom fields that you use for financial reconciliation or strategic gift details, you can make sure these are completed accurately on a monthly basis. Then finally, you can use this report review as an opportunity to ensure that all of your acknowledgements were sent out for the prior month. The second review that we recommend you set up is accounts created last month. Again, you'll need two things. One, a custom query, and two, a custom report. These shown here are the query criteria we recommend, meaning you'll review all accounts, whether they are new users, tributes, or constituents. You define this in the starting query. All accounts with an account creation date of last month. Your report will need to include full details of an account and a persona record. And again, you can set this up in eTapestry under Reports, Manage Reports. I called mine Account Detail Report. And I recommend you include columns for name, salutation, contact information, and any other key user-defined fields you need to validate. When you run this, you will be selecting the data quality query of accounts created last month, which you put together for this review. When you review this report, you want to look for errors like missing or incorrect contact information, like address, email, phone number. Formatting and capitalization errors in addresses, names, and salutations. Incomplete or unusable salutations. Since salutations are key for communication with your donors, you want to make sure these are completed accurately. Pay special attention to the long salutation because it's pretty common for this field to auto-populate incorrectly. You also want to look for errors like missing data in required fields, like name format and account type. Formatting and reporting rely on these required fields. So you want to update them so that you can use them as intended. Now, if you rely on data other than accounts and transactions for key organizational reports, or if you have a lot of automated data entry, you want to consider expanding your recurring data quality reviews to check for additional errors. So we covered reviewing accounts and reviewing transactions, but you might consider setting up processes to identify and merge duplicates of newly created accounts. to confirm online form submission data matched correctly with existing accounts. So this one is something you can do by reviewing the journal entry note that is added to an account's journal when online form data is matched to their account. And doing so will help you catch any incorrect or incomplete matches. You may also want to process to review additional eTapestry records like journal contacts, notes, or personas that have been created or modified, especially if they are key to certain programs or reporting requirements. So we're here to help you restore the health of your database. So get in touch to talk through your options or get support on your cleanup project. We can save you time by guiding you, taking on the heavy lifting of a major cleanup, and we provide free consultations to get you started in the right direction. So you can get in touch with us at info@sidekicksolutionsllc.com, and we'll be happy to discuss your challenges as well as your options for solutions. That's it for our presentation today. At this point, we'll be opening it up for Q&A. Jeff and I will be happy to take any questions you have. If you have a question that you haven't posted yet, you can go ahead and type it into the questions section of the GoToWebinar toolbar, and I'll be happy to address it for the group. So Jeff, are there any questions that have come through since we started?
Yeah, there are a few, and I've answered a couple of them, but why don't I go ahead and answer a few of them for the group. So the first and most prominent question has been whether or not we'll be posting slides or a recording of this webinar later. And the answer to that is yes. We're going to be sharing a recording of the webinar with everyone who has registered and attended the webinar. And that will be sent out in an email after the presentation. Give us a little bit of time to get that put together, but you should see that end of the day or early tomorrow. There was another question about whether or not it's possible to make user-defined fields mandatory or required. And there is a process to do that. User-defined fields can be set as required across the database by going to the user-defined fields page, selecting a field that you want to make required, navigating to field attributes, and then the checkbox at the top is, would you like to make this field required? You check that and the field will have a little red icon next to it that'll allow you to force users to fill in that field. So that was a good question. Okay, so we have quite a few questions coming in here. So Allie, I'll toss them out and we'll see if we want to tackle these together.
Great.
Okay, so there's a question, if you see a gift that should be a pledge payment, how can you reassign it as a pledge payment?
That's a great question. And unfortunately, there's no great solution. You can't reassign it. eTapestry does not have that functionality to take an existing transaction and change its type. It's just not possible. So to do that, you'll need to delete the existing gift and create the payment to a pledge. So I tend to keep my existing gift so I can always go back to it and make sure it's there. You might choose to reverse a gift instead of deleting it if you need it for financial purposes. But you will need to recreate the transaction to allocate it towards a pledge.
I do believe that this particular feature is in the Blackbaud Ideas Forum. So if you feel passionately about it, go ahead and vote that up. It's something we've voted for, and we're hoping that eventually that might be a feature that they offer. There's another question. Does eTapestry have a mass delete of old accounts? Great question, and one that we get frequently. Unfortunately, we cannot mass delete accounts in eTapestry. You can, however, request that Blackbaud delete a batch of accounts based on a query, but you must put together that query on your own and submit that to Blackbaud. To get around that, we do have a number of options that we like using to flag accounts as either inactive or move them out of our reporting. And we actually have a post on that on our blog. And I'm going to go ahead and paste the link to that blog post in the chat window in GoToMeeting. So hopefully this will go out to everybody. And the title of that blog post is How to Clean Up Old or Inactive Accounts in eTapestry. And that has some good instructions to go ahead and take a look at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for those of you wondering why I was showing the user-defined field page, when you flag an account as inactive, you tend to use a custom field, something called record status, or some people just use mailing status to say, this account is inactive. And then as the article points out, you can then remove those from your queries.
So here's another good question. How do you suggest running a duplicate report if the database has more than 10,000 accounts? I believe it's limited to that number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. So if you have more than a certain number of accounts in your database, the duplicate report requires that you split up your queries so that you're only running 10,000 accounts or fewer. And if your database is really large enough, then you'll actually be required to do 5,000 accounts or fewer. So Blackbaud recommends you split these up by account number. I like to do it by account number or name. The best way to do it, if you've done a holistic review of your database, so if you've segmented all your constituents out, say by account number, so you've just got 10,000 per query, you run each query separately with the duplicate report. And if you've gone through your entire database, then on a monthly basis, all you have to do to check for duplicates is to run your new accounts query with the duplicate report to check for new duplicates. So doing a holistic review of your database is a little clunkier if you have a lot of accounts because you're required to split it up, but you can definitely get around it.
So there's another question here. Why isn't sort name standard on all eTapestry reports? I believe this question relates to standard reports and why there are some fields that aren't offered on standard reports. And so our best solution, we can't customize standard reports, but in some cases we can return the same records from a standard report. And so we can develop custom queries or even custom account queries to pull that data out and return a sort name. Allie, do you want to go ahead and show on a standard report how we can create a custom account query based on that data?
Sure.
Yeah, I think the Giving Dynamics report will run quickly because the sandbox doesn't have a lot of accounts in it. So from any standard report, we can develop what's called a custom account query. And a custom account query will return the same data, the records that we see in the standard report, but we can use that query in a custom report to return other fields that may not be present in that standard report. So at the bottom of this particular set of data right here, this is new donors in a given year. I can create a custom account query to pull those donors out, to create a mailing list, to find those donors' history, their giving history, or any other number of components of their data. And that's one way that we can get other fields out.
Yes, so what it does is it takes all of those records that were in that drop-down list from the standard report, and it adds them to this custom account query. And now that I have these 8 accounts grouped together, I can run custom reports with this list and pull in whatever data I need to, including sort name.
Perfect. A couple of other questions about what resources will be provided at the end of this webinar. We will be providing a recording again that will be posted online, and you'll be given a link to that via email. The structure and blueprints for the queries and reports presented during the webinar are something that we do offer our clients. If you're interested in data cleanup or data quality procedures and would like to learn more about how we might be able to help, you can certainly send us an email and book a free consultation to take a look at your database. Unfortunately, we won't be posting the blueprints for the queries and reports that we talked about in today's webinar, but again, the video will be available should you want to put those together yourself. I don't see any other questions, Ali, so I think at this time we'll go ahead and close. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Any other questions that you have about data quality, data cleanup, or data health, we can certainly take online or offline, excuse me, and we encourage you to reach out because we're here to help. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Ali.